Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of August 16th, 2026. If you're attending UAC in Chicago from September 3rd through 9th, I will be giving 2 lectures on Friday and Tuesday at 11 a.m. My topics are about the consultation chart and the collective call of the Lunar Nodes. I hope to see you there, or if you see me at the conference, say hello. The theme of this week is the most dangerous game, and there are 3 things I want you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that on Wednesday, August 9th, we have a first quarter moon at 27 Scorpio, with the sun in Leo and the moon in Scorpio. The first quarter moon is a crisis of action. Something that began around the solar eclipse requires movement. A decision must be made, a problem confronted, or an obstacle overcome. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It's deeply emotional, intense, investigative, and determined to get to the bottom of things. Whenever the moon moves through this sign, something buried can rise from the depths. Scorpio rules secrets, taboos, sexuality, death, rebirth, shared resources, debt, taxes, inheritances, corruption, bribery, and the psychological material we would sometimes rather leave underground, but what is done in the dark must come to the light. Think about the HBO series True Detective. Matthew McConaughey's character has that Scorpio quality. He's intense, haunted by death, psychologically complex, and compelled to uncover the truth no matter how dark it becomes. Woody Harrelson's character carries more of the Leo archetype with his bravado, pride, and need to maintain appearances. Scorpio has several symbols that describe its range of expression. There is a scorpion which lashes out with its stinger when threatened. There is the eagle which rises above the landscape, observes carefully, and waits for the right moment to strike. And there's the phoenix, which is destroyed only to rise again from the ashes. Scorpio reminds us that sometimes something must die, literally or metaphorically, before transformation can occur. Think about what is coming up from the depths. This lunation could bring revelations about hidden relationships, criminal investigations, or abuses of power. With the solar eclipse in Leo still reverberating, leaders, celebrities, athletes, and other prominent figures remain under the spotlight. We could see actions taken against a Leo-type figure because of something Scorpio-like that has been uncovered. It will be interesting to watch developments in the Tupac Shakur murder trial. It's a decades-old murder case involving an iconic celebrity coming back into focus. Something long buried is being excavated, and that murder was about 29 years ago when Saturn was in Aries, so it's the Saturn return of the murder. Accountability and consequence eventually comes, even when it's delayed. The Sabian symbol for 27 Scorpio is the King of the Fairies approaching his domain. Themes involving hidden kingdoms, secret worlds, sexuality, and powerful people operating behind the scenes could emerge. We may hear more allegations or revelations about powerful figures. Hunter Biden has been on the podcast circuit talking about closeted public figures who have a lot of power and secrets, which can allow them to be controlled. Mars rules this Scorpio moon and is moving through the sign of Cancer right now. That directs some of the intensity towards families, home, homeland, ancestry, and national belonging. Stories involving family conflict, domestic abuse, attacks against civilians, or governments taking aggressive actions against their own populations could become prominent. Mars is also separating from a square to Neptune in Aries, leaving behind themes of confusion and deception or a sneak attack. Because Cancer is a water sign and Neptune rules the sea, watch for developments involving water, ships, coastlines, naval activity, or attacks at sea. Think of Jaws. The shark has already taken victims. Everyone knows something dangerous is beneath the surface, and now they are getting into the boat and making a plan to hunt down the predator. That's the feeling of this first quarter moon. The threat is not theoretical. We know what it is. What are we going to do about it? At this first quarter moon, Venus is approaching in opposition to Saturn retrograde in Aries. Venus is strong in Libra, its home sign, where it can do what it does with ease. It's a sign of justice, diplomacy, relationships, agreement, and balance. Saturn brings consequences, limits, responsibility, and accountability. Venus will also activate the U.S. natal Saturn while opposing transiting Saturn to the degree. The U.S. Saturn is 14 Libra and Saturn retrograde stationed and is still at 14 Aries. Questions of institutional responsibility will become especially important because the United States has Saturn in the 10th house of the executive branch. Watch for mounting pressure on powerful officials, particularly within the executive branch. Scorpio also rules debt, both financial and karmic. Someone may discover that their bill has come due. Psychologically, on the personal level, this first quarter moon in Scorpio can bring material from the subconscious rushing into the awareness. Jealousy, resentment, envy, sexual insecurity, possessiveness, fear of abandonment, or old wounds around betrayal can surface quickly. With the sun in Leo, pride and ego can become part of the trigger. Your partner looks at someone else, and suddenly your reaction is far more intense than the situation warrants. Someone else's beauty, popularity, success, or desirability makes you want to diminish them. You may feel overlooked and the scorpion stinger wants to come out. Instead of immediately striking, investigate the feeling. What's underneath the anger? What fear or old wound has been activated and wants to be acknowledged? Scorpio's highest expression is not revenge, it's transformation. The first quarter moon invites us to take action on what has been revealed rather than allowing what lives in the shadows to control us. 9 months ago, we had a new moon at 28 degrees of Scorpio on November 19th, 2025. On that day, the president signed legislation requiring the Justice Department to release its Epstein investigation files. He only signed this under duress. He had no choice. The measure had become politically awkward for the White House, with Republicans joining Democrats to force the issue. On August 19th, the sun is in Leo, the moon is in Scorpio, both at 27 degrees. Pay attention to what comes out over the next week about these files or new revelations about the Epstein case, or it could be some other scandal that comes to light that requires action, a course correction. The full moon 9 months from now, the sun in Taurus and the moon in Scorpio are both at 29 degrees on May 20th, 2027. This is called the bankruptcy degree for both sides by Carol Rushman. So there may be themes of moral bankruptcy or literal bankruptcy coming up at this full moon. The last quarter moon of this cycle is where the sun is in Aquarius and the moon is in Scorpio. On February 17th, 2028, they're both at 28 degrees. So there can be a story in your life that's unfolding over this 27 months where there are turning points every 9 months. I'm so excited to share my new celestial reference guide. This is something that has been formulating in my psyche for years. It's designed to help you follow the moon as she moves through the zodiac and connects with the other planets, so you can begin to understand how the signs, planets, houses, and aspects work together in real time. It's about moving from memorization to interpretation and having those wonderful aha moments when you actually see the astrology happening. It's also a perfect companion to this podcast. Learn astrology by living it. Get your celestial reference guide now at astrologybyceleste.com. The link is in the show notes. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that on August 22nd, the sun meets the south node at 29 degrees of Leo. The sun is at home in Leo, so this puts the spotlight on classic solar and Leo figures. Presidents, kings, royalty, celebrities, performers, athletes, and other people accustomed to being center stage. The sun meets the south node once a year, and because the south node is associated with release, depletion, and letting go, we can see a draining away of our solar power. A prominent leader or celebrity could step down, be fired, exposed, diminished, or pass away. Secrets may come to light. Someone could simply reveal more of themselves, perhaps through a memoir, confession, interview, or announcement. The broader theme is that something about the image, identity, or mystique is being released. And this conjunction happens at 29 Leo, the anaretic degree of crisis and decay, where everything in the sign is ready to be released and let go so it can move on. And Regulus is the royal fixed star that sat on that degree or close to it for most of our lifetime. That makes the symbolism around kings, power, pride, prominence, and the rise and fall of important figures especially interesting. President Trump has his ascendant at 29 Leo, and we're already watching stories emerge that challenge the image of strength that he projects. The south node crossing the ascendant can correspond with depletion, fatigue, weakness, loss of status, or simply a period when parts of the identity are being stripped away. Think about the extraordinary story we learned last week about Trump's reportedly being secretly moved from Air Force One after the NATO summit because of a credible Iranian threat. He was disguised and transported using an airport catering equipment, while staff and members of the press stayed on the decoy aircraft. Remember, last week's theme was called The Hunger Games, and you can think about each network sending a representative to fly on the plane. This happened on July 8th, just as Neptune stationed retrograde in Aries. You cannot write the symbolism better. camouflage, deception. And now Neptune retrograde is pulling back the curtain and we discover what actually happened. The president escaped off the plane because of a threat and was going to let people of his staff and reporters be blown to smithereens. And you get the image of the president of the United States crumpling and shoving himself into a catering cart, the cowardly lion hiding from the threat and rushing off, leaving his troops behind. Also last week, Iran said they're no longer negotiating with him and they'll just wait out his term until 2029 to negotiate with the next administration. This is very serious as the Strait of Hormuz is currently closed as I'm recording this on Tuesday, August 11th. And Israel has also said that they reject the president's peace plan. So we're really seeing a leader weakened as the South Node in Leo is on his ascendant. And this is part of the larger story of the South Node moving through Leo over the next 18 months. Leo can be the king, the celebrity, the performer, the person who believes they're special. But on the shadow side, Leo can be pride, arrogance, narcissism, entitlement, and an excessive need for attention or applause. The South Node can take someone down a peg. It can reveal the person behind the performance and strip off the mask. But we also need to remember the high road of Leo. Leo is warm-hearted, courageous, creative, loyal, generous, and magnanimous. Leo doesn't just want to shine. At its best, Leo uses its light to warm other people. So the South Node in Leo isn't simply about watching kings fall. It's also asking all of us what kind of leader we want to be. Do you need all the attention for yourself, or can you share the spotlight? Can you celebrate someone else's success? Can you be generous with your time, your energy, your creativity, your attention, or your money? These themes aren't limited to politics. Leo also rules entertainment, recreation, sports, children, creativity, and gold. I'm particularly watching gold. I expect we are going to get a significant gold story during this eclipse cycle, but definitely during the South Node in Leo transit. I don't know whether it'll involve its value, theft, discovery, reserve, something hidden, or something else entirely, but I'm watching for a big gold story to come to light. Pay attention to what happens a couple of days before and after August 22nd. Watch for stories of Leo types involving exposure, depletion, release, revelation, resignation, or a fall from prominence. On a personal level, this can be much quieter, something connected to your pride, ego, identity, or creativity may be revealed to you. You may get the most amazing idea, and it's like your soul is telling you it's time to get it out. You may also become aware of where you've been performing instead of being authentic, or where pride has gotten in your way, or release something creative you've been holding inside and allow other people to see it. It's like a Broadway play where this person who's the star comes out and throws their arms out and sings their big song. Like Jennifer Holliday and Dreamgirls, the I'm Not Telling You I'm Not Going song. We all have an opportunity to release some of the shadow expressions of Leo while learning more deeply about its high road. Leading with heart, creating boldly, sharing the spotlight, and giving generously. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that on August 22nd, the sun leaves Leo and enters Virgo, where it will remain until September 22nd. Virgo is mutable earth. Its job is to bring order to chaos. It rules health, work, systems, organization. routines, and the details that keep everything functioning. And notice the sun's path. It first crosses the south node at 29 Leo and then enters Virgo. We move from themes of depletion, release, and exposure involving Leo figures directly into the sign associated with health. So I'm watching for health stories involving prominent people. We could hear about a leader, a celebrity, or royalty experiencing a health problem, someone from the entertainment world passing on, or more information emerging about the health of an already visibly frail public figure. Still waiting to hear or see from Mitch McConnell. Mercury, which rules the sign of Virgo, is also traveling through Leo, activating the Mars placements of both Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. Mercury brings information, announcements, documents, conversations, and revelations. We may learn something significant about either of them during this period, including potential information connected to health, the conflict between them, or their ability to continue operating as they have been. As we enter Virgo season, the moon is in Capricorn, approaching an opposition to Mars in Cancer. The moon in Capricorn is in the sign of its detriment, as far from home as its home sign Cancer as it can be. And it's also making a square with Neptune. In mundane astrology, the moon rules the people, and this combination feels difficult. People may feel displaced, uncomfortable, vulnerable, or dealing with circumstances beyond their control. But there's something interesting. Mars in Cancer is in the sign of its fall, but the two planets, the moon and Mars, are in opposition, but they are in mutual reception. The moon wants to be in its home in Cancer. Mars wants to be in Capricorn because that's the sign of its exaltation. So they're in mutual reception with each other from the signs that they're weak in. So they may be able to help each other or just get themselves in more trouble. Like people could be furious and ready to fight if they are away from home because they're evacuated because of a storm or some other type of event and ready to rage against their leaders. A major weather or disaster story around this period. The sun crossing the south node in a fire sign could literally describe something being burned away. And then the sun enters Virgo and the focus turns to the cleanup, bringing the order to chaos. What remains? Who needs help? How do we restore order? That's Virgo's job. After the chaos comes the cleanup. Transiting Venus in Libra activates Saturn in the United States chart by conjunction, while opposing transiting Saturn retrograde in Aries. Saturn brings consequences, limitations, accountability, and the reality of what can and cannot be done. I'm watching for stories involving loss of support, rejection, or restrictions, or someone being forced to confront consequences of previous decisions. President Trump is particularly constrained. There have been calls from critics for impeachment or use of the 25th Amendment, and his foreign policy ambitions are meeting resistance. Iran has indicated it's unwilling to negotiate with him, and Israel has pushed back against elements of his Gaza peace plan. And personally, this is where Virgo season becomes so useful. Mercury is still in Leo, so maybe you've had a big idea. You're ready to bring your vision to life. Maybe you've been inspired. Maybe something creative has been calling you. Now, Virgo asks, what are you going to do with it? Make the list, create the schedule, organize the files, make the appointment, clean up the mess, look at your health and your daily routines. Break the big idea into bite-sized, manageable pieces. Leo provides the vision. Virgo figures out how to make it work. So this is your opportunity during Virgo season to bring order to chaos and turn inspiration into something real. The theme of the week is the most dangerous game. The title comes from Richard Connell's famous 1924 short story about big game hunter Sanger Rainsford, who encounters the wealthy General Zaroff, a man who has become bored with hunting animals and decides that human beings are the only prey challenging enough to hunt for sport. Eventually, the hunter becomes the hunted. It's the perfect Leo meets the South Node story. Leo rules games, sports, recreation, competition, spectacle, heroes, and the desire for victory. But this week, when the sun meets the South Node in Leo, draining some of that solar power, the winner can become the loser. Mars, the planet of warriors, aggression, competition, and the hunt, is in Cancer, the sign of its fall, where it has difficulty operating. So I'm watching stories where the person who normally holds the weapons or project's strength suddenly looks vulnerable, defensive, or defeated. And there's a real-world story that's already in motion. During the 1992 to 1996 siege of Sarajevo in the Bosnian War, it is alleged that wealthy foreigners paid enormous sums for the opportunity to shoot civilians from Bosnian Serb positions around the city. The allegations became widely known through the 2022 documentary called Sarajevo Safari, directed by Slovenian filmmaker Miran Zupanic. Investigations are continuing, although the allegations remain contested and have not been established in court. It will be interesting to see if the story resurfaces during this Leo eclipse or at some point during the South Node and Leo transit. One of my greatest joys is helping people understand themselves more fully. If you're wanting to make sense of your past, recognize the patterns that have shaped you, or get clearer about the path ahead, astrology can offer real insight. In our sessions, we'll use your natal chart as a map. You don't need to know any astrology at all. You can book a single session for clarity or choose a coaching package if you'd like ongoing support as you grow and plan for the future. Book your sessions at astrologybyceleste.com on the services page. On Sunday, the word of the day is crown. The moon meets Venus at 9 degrees of Libra. Venus is in its home sign, and 9 Libra is where there's a fixed star called diadem, which is a crown. There is an opportunity for connection, but the moon then opposes Saturn retrograde at 14 degrees of Aries. So someone who normally keeps it together and is elegant and diplomatic, has great composure, may meet some kind of restriction, pushback, or pressure. So there's really an opportunity to, when challenged, how can you keep your crown on straight and stay above the fray and handle any kind of pressure or stress with dignity? Because Mars in Cancer is King Kong's Pluto in Aquarius. They're both at 3 degrees. So this can be like a subconscious emotional response coming up from someone who's normally composed when they're challenged, and they can lose face in front of a group if they're not careful. Quincunxes are adjustment energy that moves us into a new situation where we have to release and let go of something. And don't let it be you who has to release and let go of their crown. On Monday, the word of the day is SIREN. Mars in Cancer first squares Neptune retrograde and Aries. They're both at 3 degrees. Mars square Neptune is the holy war transit where people are ready to go to battle over beliefs. In Cancer, they may be very protective about their homeland or their family or security. But Neptune can sometimes be deceptive or unfocused. Mercury in Leo is also trine Saturn retrograde in Aries, both at 14 degrees on this day. Disciplined thinking and speech is available if you can control your hot-headedness or temper and not have a too fiery of response. Now, trines remove all restrictions, so something could just pop out of someone's mouth. This is like your mama is this, that, and the other thing. Venus in Libra on this day is sextile Jupiter in Leo, both at 10 degrees. So Venus sextile Jupiter, the benefics are working together. These 3 transits together bring up themes of the sirens from the Odyssey. These beautiful women sitting on the rocks, singing a song that is so beautiful and transformative. Sailors will sail their ships into the rocks. They cannot control themselves. But in the story, Odysseus wrapped himself up on the mast so that he could hear it. The moon enters Scorpio at 2:45 p.m. Pacific time. He just had to go down to the depths to hear this story. You can think about how he had to examine the underworld, to experience what it was like to hear this irresistible music. And the moon squares Pluto retrograde in Scorpio at 3 degrees. So notice if something comes up that there's something forbidden, you know better, but you just feel such a call to partake in something. This could be someone just having to have an expensive item of clothing with Venus and Libra that's way too expensive, or a luxury item that they saw some celebrity wearing with Jupiter and Leo. And there's something internal that just is pulling them to buy this thing and potentially get into debt. And can you be strong enough to resist the propaganda that we've been fed about celebrity and the glamour of it all, and use good sense and leave it on the shelf? On Tuesday, the word of the day is haughty. The Scorpio Moon squares Jupiter and Leo, both at 10 degrees. You may notice someone acting superior, arrogantly proud, or disdainful towards others. If you see that, take a moment to think if you are projecting onto them rather than them really doing something. People with strong Scorpio energy or Pluto on their ascendant, Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, often can face people thinking they're intense or projecting this kind of haughty attitude onto them. So it's a good opportunity to just investigate your own shadow. On Wednesday, the word of the day is safari. The Scorpio moon is square Mercury and Leo, both at 17 degrees of the respective signs. And we have the first quarter moon at 27 Scorpio at 7:46 p.m. Pacific time. This is an energy of going on a trip to somewhere in the hot sun to observe or hunt wildlife. Now, it could be your neighborhood bar that you're going on a metaphorical journey like a safari to. or a tiki bar. On Thursday, the word of the day is destiny. The Charlie's Angels song from Destiny's Child was playing in my head. The Scorpio Moon squares the lunar nodes, the North Node in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo, both at 29 degrees. This is the first time that this happens, and it will continue to happen over the next year and a half every time the moon is in Scorpio. So notice what comes up in your conscious attention whenever the moon squares the nodes. It's like a choice point. You come up to a road diverged. And can you consider the group and what is good for the collective versus what is just good for you? The moon enters the fiery sign of Sagittarius at 1:29 a.m. Sagittarius is mutable energy. There is a big shift in energy from going down in the depths of Scorpio to coming out into a Sagittarius moon where there's more optimism. There's a desire to seek new experiences, to explore something. You may notice your mood is much better on this day. Now, there can be a bit of upheaval with the Sagittarius moon opposing Uranus in Gemini. They're both at 5 degrees. I got Richard III, the Shakespeare play, the line, "A horse, my kingdom for a horse." Sagittarius glyph is half man, half horse, the centaur with the arrow pulled back. The sign is very associated with horses, and Uranus in Gemini can just make some kind of exclamation. On Friday, the word of the day is divorce. This is the day Venus in Libra opposes Saturn retrograde in Aries at 14 degrees. This can bring a relationship to a stalemate. We may hear news of a prominent couple separating or making their divorce public. More broadly, this aspect can describe breakups, estrangement, rejected arguments, failed negotiations, or recognition that two sides cannot meet in the middle. There can be diplomatic failures. In your own life, really pay attention about how you are interacting with your spouse or close relationships. Notice if you're feeling lonely or someone's being withdrawn. Sometimes people just need a little space. Can you not start necessarily with the being in a Scorpio first quarter moon, letting paranoia take you to places that lead you to do something like snooping on someone's phone? You could get caught. On Saturday, the word of the day is decrepit. The Capricorn moon begins at 1:58 p.m. Pacific time. This is cardinal initiating Earth. Great time to get serious, practical, and get stuff done. Now, the moon is in the sign of its detriment, as far away from home as it can be. Capricorn rules governments and big business. It also rules the elderly. And the sun meets the south node at 29 Leo, sending somebody's ego down the drain. A great time for someone to think about doing their will and where do they want to leave their money. Maybe part of it they want to leave for children to have the possibility to take art classes, do sports, something like that. Someone could be working on their will. Virgo season begins at 7:18 p.m. Pacific time. It's time to bring order to chaos, to get organized and systematized. Health news could be coming. The Capricorn moon squares Neptune in Aries. Neptune's retrograde, both at 3 degrees. We may find out a leader is ill or a celebrity type is ill. You may try to do something you used to be able to do, like a cartwheel or a split or a pull-up, and you have a lot of difficulty and feel your age could be what happens on an individual level. While I was writing this, I thought about Shakespeare's Richard III. Now is the winter of our discontent. At the beginning of this play, his brother, Edward, the reigning king, is seriously ill. Edward dies, creating the power vacuum that Richard exploits to seize the throne. This could be happening on the world stage as someone seizing a throne. It could show up in your own life, at your work, or at your home. Does one of the kids take another seat, or one of your dogs or other pets take someone else's seat? Just notice if you see someone seizing a throne. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.